22.
It's called to order. If everybody would stand, we'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called to order. At this time, if everyone would please silence your electronic devices. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. If we could have a roll call, please, Judy.
Ken Dornish.
Present.
Darren Burkhart.
Here.
Darrell Foley.
Here.
Jamie Humphrey. Mark Bauer.
Here.
Dr. David Weigel. Excuse me.
Here. Approval of minutes. We had our minutes of our April 7th, 2022 meeting to review. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are not any corrections to minutes, they stand approved as presented. New business, Mr. May. Discussion and reviewing updating Redevelopment Commission's long-range project plan.
Let me first off point out that whoever put your agenda together put new business before old business. Probably need better help. So recently you have completed the Veterans Way project, you have completed the capital improvement plan and program, you have completed the bicycle and pedestrian master plans. I think these were all items on the previous plan for the Redevelopment Commission. I was having a conversation with the mayor the other day. We were talking about is now the time for you to revisit that plan and look ahead to where you're going next. The last time this was done, Ken, did you participate in that 3 or 4 years ago, I think?
4 years now.
I think you and Adam. There was a working group put together. There was no more than 2 commission members so that you avoided the quorum issue and the meeting notification issue. I think Mark could probably serve with 2 others of you if that's something you desire. In talking with the mayor, I think you could solicit his input in that planning process. I would be willing to provide technical assistance there as well. So I offer you the thought and ask, do you want to look at that list of projects again and see if it's time to scratch some off and add some to it?
Yeah.
Well, and there's a statutory process for the amendment of your project list. So we can, if that's your intention, you can form your working group, and then that will give you an idea of where you're headed, and we can also scope out and identify the timeline of when we need to do what in terms of hearings and that sort of thing. It's not a complicated process. I mean, I've done it my last go round as a city attorney when we included to the Veterans Way project. So it's very straightforward in how you do it. It's easier if you know what you want to do before you start the process of changing it all. So.
So we should form a working group of 2 commission members.
And Mark could also serve since he's going to avoid the quorum issue. On this working group, if he wants to. He doesn't mess up the...
No, he does not. No, does not mess up the quorum. Sorry, I did not understand what you're saying. No, he can be part of the working group and not mess up the quorum issue.
Any commission members interested in serving? I will.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm certainly available if you need me, so I'd be willing to do it as well.
I would say for your minutes, just a motion to form a working group, I would probably call it to form a project list working group and to make a recommendation to this body.
Somebody care to make a motion that we?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second. Motion by Ken, seconded by Darren. Any other discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Talk briefly afterward as to when we might get together. Old business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Discussion and presentation of agreement for residential development and presentation of status of that development project.
Yeah, so good evening. This is something Ron's been formally presenting on, I guess, for the last 6-8 months, and so I get to steal his thunder this evening to bring good news, I think, to the commission and to the community that with your approval, and we'll get exactly to the wording of that in a moment, that the Redevelopment Commission has reached an agreement with Beacon Homes to develop a community along Veterans Way on the property that the Redevelopment Commission purchased in late 2020. The agreement that's before you talks about a timeline for infrastructure reimbursements from the Redevelopment Commission. It talks about a timeline of not to exceed 4 years for the builder to build 72 middle-income, single-family residents on the approximately 33-acre parcel that you own along Veterans Way. I am really proud of this group for stepping up to help with land purchasing, subdividing, and also for working with the developer to bring hopefully what will be one of the largest single-family developments in the community in the last 10 plus years, probably stretching maybe as far back as the late 90s when we talk about 70 plus homes. So this is something Beacon's been building in the community for years. They finished out some of the other neighborhoods that were started by other developers, so this would be their first from break ground through completion project in our community, but not the first in their portfolio. So I would entertain questions. You all have had the agreement for a while. There are a couple things that we need to specify in your agreement as far as the motion, but questions that I can answer. Okay. If not, Chris, a couple things that we want to be sure are reflected in the motion for passage.
Yes, so I have been working with Beacon's counsel on the terms of this. It's gone through a couple of different iterations. What you see in front of you, or what was provided to you yesterday from my office, is the most recent version of that. One discussion is there is a purchase price amount identified, and we're just discussing of what that amount should be. My recommendation to you would be that you simply approve the inclusion of the appraised amount of the acreage that as the basis of the purchase price. That way, what they're structured to get is what it appraised for. The other thing that is, to be honest, there may be some minor tweaks. For instance, the city engineer brought to my attention yesterday that we may be able to word, a section differently in terms of, platting of the subdivision, which really it doesn't go to the weight or the substance of what you're trying to do. It's more the procedural methodology of effectuating that. So I would anticipate minor changes potentially in that regard, because their council and I have been talking, and he said, yeah, I agree, we should probably look at that and make sure, really just to make sure it's the most ironclad or airtight contract that we can have in terms of this. And to be honest, what you're doing is innovative across even the state, that there's not a lot of communities that are reaching out the way you guys are to a developer like this to try and bring homes at this time for people to build into. So what I would need, or what I would recommend for you in terms of your, your permission or agreement would be to authorize the president of this body, Dr. Weigel, to execute an agreement with Beacon Homes, or with Beacon as their LLC entity, in an amount not to exceed the appraised value of the parcel of land that's at issue, and in a form that is substantially similar to what has been circulated amongst you previously. That way, if there's something, if it gets to a point where he feels that it's not substantially the same as what it was when you made that decision, then we can simply come back to this body at a special meeting or something in that regard. So that would be my recommendation to you. That gives us the ability to move forward on the right step and get this done without necessitating another meeting because I changed a semicolon in a 28-page document.
As far as the intent is a procedural thing, the intent is to follow basically what any other developer would come into as far as going before the planning commission, correct?
Yeah.
The substantial issue is I worded it as final on the secondary plat, which in this case contemplates a 3-phase build out over 4 years, and we have to look and make sure that I can convey good title at the end of phase 1, because that's when they're gonna start selling houses. So it's really probably just a language change from a final plat to a secondary plat with approval of a phased in title sequence, so that we can make sure that we're able to convey clean title to the people that are purchasing the houses.
And I think something to note too, that this agreement doesn't allow them to skip any steps in the planning process.
No.
Or it doesn't waive any fees or anything like that.
So we need a motion to,
Yeah, you need a motion, basically what I said.
So moved.
thank you, Daryl. Is there a second? Thank you, Kim. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. If I may, Chairman, have a moment. Thank you all for being supportive of this. As Chris mentioned, we were the second housing TIF in the state of Indiana, which this is going into, and something that we, as our administration, with your help, have been working on since I got here. Single-family housing at market rate is a massive step in the right direction. I believe it is something that our community has desired for a while, and because of all of you and your trust in the vision for the community and your support and, of course, the dollars from the organization have made that happen. So thank you all. I am hopeful and glad to see the project moving forward, and I'm glad to have all of you as the partners to make this hopefully become a true reality. So thank you. Thanks.
Next item, Mr. May, City Engineer, discussion of offering remaining property for sale.
So in your last meeting, you discussed the property that you bought along Veterans Way. After you purchased that, it was divided into 5 parcels. You, a while back, offered 3 of those for bid and did not receive any bids on the 3. You still retain 2 parcels. The discussion in your previous meeting was to go ahead and offer those to bid. It's a step in the process. If you get successful bids, you could realize some income. If you don't, you're then in position, don't let me lead them astray, please, Chris. You're in position to negotiate with anyone that offers to purchase those. I emailed you the appraisals. There were 2 appraisals each for the 2 parcels. If you want to proceed with this, one of the things that you will need to do is to set a minimum bid amount.
Correct. Yeah, so the process is similar to what we did last time, which is there will be an offer sheet generated, and that offer sheet will have in it the minimum bid that you're willing to accept to sell the property, which can be any amount. I mean, you can, it's your property, you can sell it for however much you want. There's no requirement that it be, within a percentage of appraised or anything along that line. You can literally sell it for whatever you want. And then that'll be noticed. It runs, I believe it's 3 weeks. And then you will have the opening of the bids, and if there's no bids on it, then you will be in a position to have complied with the statutory requirements before selling property. So, but yes, that's what you need. Is you need basically the way we did it with the last. We've done it with 3. One of them we knew generally what we were trying to accomplish. The other 2, as I recall, the mayor and Ron just came up with numbers based off of their assessment of the value to the city and to you all, and those numbers exceeded the appraised amount. And that would be my only recommendation, is to ensure that whatever you're listing it for exceeds the appraised amount of the property. But in today's market, who knows?
Did we use a percentage above the appraised last time, or just we chose no?
It was, each bid amount was above the appraisals. In any way you care to look at them, average or minimum or max or whatever. I don't think there was any formula to that.
My recommendation is, if you're so inclined to do it, I would, I probably recommend giving the mayor and Ron the authority to establish a value that so long as it exceeds the appraised value and is consistent with property values in this community, to list it at. And then if you get it, fantastic.
Anybody care to make that motion? Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Ken. And Mr. Mayor and Ron, that'd be good with yous to do. Okay. Any other discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item on the agenda is we have a resolution confirming our need for the TIF revenues. This is a statutory requirement. We have to be complete by June 15th every year. This has been prepared by Reedy Financial Group, and it's the amount of excess assessed value captured by the commission in each such allocation area is not expected to generate more than 200% of the amount of revenues, TIF revenues necessary to pay principal and interest on bonds, lease obligations, and other amounts. So we have this resolution we have to approve, and there's a worksheet. Our revenues we expect to collect next year are $1,064,000. It goes through some calculations, and our percentage is 144%. So if it's less than 200%, we don't have to pass anything through. So, but we have letters to go to the overlapping taxing units: Decatur County Solid Waste Management, Decatur County, the Greensburg City, Greensburg Public Library, Greensburg Community Schools, Washington Township, and Decatur County Commissioners all get a letter. So we need a motion to approve this resolution. Thank you, Ken. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Daryl. Any discussion or questions? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item on our agenda is approval of our claims to pay. We have two bills from Reedy Financial, one for March, one for April, and two different bills from Stephen Legal Group for April. All four of those add up to $4,555.16, and if we've looked at our financial report, I think we can afford to pay that. So is there a motion to pay our bills? Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Kim, for the second. Any question or discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
In your information you have before you tonight is a new financial reporting form, different format than you've had in the past, yes. One of the things that's now different from what historically has been done, in the past you've kind of worked on a cash basis. Actually, with the budget that was passed last summer, there were appropriations made for you. They were very broad, there's one really. So that yellow column shows your appropriation balance. So if you spend all of that money, you would need to go back to council and ask for an additional appropriation. The column on the far right represents your cash status. And I will also suggest that this report is still maybe a work in progress. There may be a small, like $100 discrepancy in there. And we're working to get that straightened out.
Any questions about that? That takes us to the end of our agenda. Any board members have any comments? If not, we'll end our meeting. Our next meeting will be in 4 weeks, June 2nd at 7:00 p.m. right here. And then if there's no other comments or questions, we'll adjourn our meeting. Thank you all for being here. We have a lot of signatures though, so don't run off.